Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Village of Gurnee Planning and Zoning Board meeting for this Wednesday, July 16th, 2025. Would we have roll call, please?
Campbell.
Present.
Morgan.
Here.
Nordentoff.
Here.
Paff. Martin.
Here.
Ware.
Here.
And Sula.
Present. We do have a quorum. If everyone would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. The next item on the agenda is the opportunity for public comment for things that are on the agenda this evening, except for the public hearing. We'll handle public comment with the public hearing like we always do.
Good evening. My name is Liz Nelson, and I work with a group called Joining Forces for Affordable Housing in Gurnee. We are a small group of residents. Regarding Agenda Item 7, to amend the zoning map and change a single-family area to commercial, we are advocating that there be consideration for mixed-use development. According to the Housing Analysis commissioned by Lake County Partners in 2023, there is demand for 7,900 housing units for seniors and families. Developing this property as mixed-use commercial and residential with commercial property on first floor and then multi-unit housing on one or two additional floors would help to meet the housing need while allowing for commercial development. The proposed plot at Route 120 in Eau Plaine is close to I-94, making it ideal for employment in Gurnee and Waukegan, which would make multi-unit housing attractive for our workforce. We hope the board and developers will consider this opportunity to meet our housing and economic needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I'll close the floor to the public. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from our meeting that was held back on June 4th. Does anybody have any questions or comments? If not, a motion to approve as submitted would be in order.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is a final subdivision plat for Ashley's, 4+ acres located at 6050 through 6060 Gurnee Mills Road.
I can do it.
Okay.
The owner of the former Toys R Us property is requesting formal subdivision of the property. Proposed subdivision will create 3 lots, 2 of which are the footprints of the 2 existing buildings that are on the site now, and the 3rd lot will be the parking, Texas Roadhouse and Ashley Furniture. The 3rd lot will consist of parking lot, drive aisles, landscaping buffers for the site. A declaration of covenants and easements is proposed as part of this, which will provide the framework for all of the maintenance of those common area properties. The plat has been reviewed by staff and is before you tonight for your consideration.
Okay, and I seem to recall we've had other projects like this, other areas of town. Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
I just have the one question.
Yes.
So I know, and it states that there's, the declaration of easements and covenants to memorialize the responsibilities for the maintenance of Lot 3, which is the parking lot. We're not going to see it. I'm hoping staff sees it because we've had these situations before where it's shared parking, right? And then the parking lot deteriorates and all of a sudden no one's raising their hands to fix it. So is there a sinking fund or something that's established within this agreement that both lots would be, lot 1 and 2 are paying into on a monthly basis for such an event?
Yes, the covenants create a business owners association amongst the 2 lots, divvy up the responsibility. The village always has the right, secondary right, has easement access to repair things if they do fall too far behind and lien the other 2 properties. So there are provisions to take care of that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? If not, a motion in the form of a recommendation to the village board.
Recommend that the village board approve the request for CRD Gurnee LLC for the final plat of subdivision of 6050 Gurnee Mills Circle subdivision.
We have a motion by Mr. Morgan. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second was it?
Yes.
Any discussion? Roll call, please, Joanne.
Campbell,
Aye.
Morgan,
Yes.
Nordentoff,
Aye.
Martin,
Aye.
Ware,
Aye.
and Sula.
Aye, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing request from the Gurnee Park District, 6.795 plus or minus acres located at several addresses along North Hunt Club Road. Shannon?
Zoning map amendment to rezone 3 parcels of land totaling 6.79 plus or minus acres from an unincorporated Lake County zoning designation of AG Agriculture and E Estate to the Village of Gurnee zoning designation of P Public Land District. The subject parcels are located south of Foxworth Lane and north of Orchard Valley Drive at the several parcels that you spoke of. I do believe that the representative of the Gurnee Park District is here.
As this particular item is a public hearing, I would request anyone who intends to give testimony or ask questions to please stand and be sworn in by the village attorney.
Please raise your right hand. Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Great, and if you can please just state your name for the record.
Richard Plage, I'm with the Gurnee Park District Trades and Construction Supervisor. We're basically not changing anything. The property has been that way for 30-plus years. Everything has been built up around the property. The only thing that we're really looking for is to get city water. Right now, we're on a well, and our employees can't even drink the water out of the well. That's how bad the well system is. It's outdated. So other than that, we're not changing anything, keeping things status quo.
Sounds like it's a public safety thing as much as anything.
Yeah, yeah.
Does anybody have any questions? No. I'll open the floor to the public. Does anyone from the public care to comment on this? Close the floor to the public. Any other discussion? A motion in the form of a recommendation to the village board would be in order.
I'll do it.
Okay, go ahead.
Make a recommendation that the village board approve the petition of the Gurnee Park District for a zoning map amendment, rezone 6.795 plus or minus acres located at 35244, 35200, and 35172 North Hunt Club Road from the previous unincorporated Lake County zone of AG, Agriculture, and E Estates to P Public Land District, a Village of Gurnee zoning designation.
We have a second. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nordentoff. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Campbell,
Aye.
Morgan,
Yes.
Nordentoff,
Aye.
Martin,
Aye.
Ware,
Aye.
and Sula.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda is an informal review. It's a zoning map amendment, potential for the northeast corner of O'Plain Road and Belvedere Road, Route 120. Dave? Okay.
Belvedere Real Estate LLC is seeking informal feedback on a plan to rezone approximately 10 parcels of land at the corner of O'Plain Road and Belvedere Road, totaling just over an acre. Currently zoned R2 single-family residential, are proposing to move it to C2 Community Commercial District to accommodate a proposed convenience store and/or a proposed retail building. In your packet, there is the kind of the outline of the property. It's a little tight as because of some of the existing right-of-ways, alleyways, things like that surrounding the property. They provided a sample concept site plan that they had developed based upon the properties that they're hoping to obtain. It doesn't lay out, it doesn't currently, the site plan doesn't currently meet all of the buffer requirements for the residential buffer to the rear, which is a 30-foot buffer, and/or the buffer along the roadways, which is 25 feet along both O'Plain Road and 120. So discussion items for tonight include whether you think the appropriateness of the C2 zoning district, the potential for relaxation of the 30-foot buffer to the residential, the potential for using the 16-foot alleyway that runs between the residential and the commercial as part of that 30-foot buffer, the potential for vacating the easement for the alleyway, potential relaxation of the Route 120 and/or Route O'Plain Road buffer, and then commercial access points are going to be a bit of a challenge with the newly constructed intersection there. 120 has limited access rights, and then O'Plain is under the jurisdiction of Lake County DOT. So those are all kind of items that were kind of outlined in your packet as far as potential discussion points. The potential developers are here to present tonight and ask any questions. So turn it over to all of you.
Thank you, David. Before we start, just so everybody understands, this is an informal review. We are not going to take any formal action at this meeting. We're just here in a kind of Q&A mode to kind of think tank the thing through to see if it has any legs to it in the future. So at this time, I'll turn the floor over to the Belvedere Group so they can give us a presentation.
Good evening. My name is Hekmat Shamat. This is my brother and partner, Raf Shamat. We are seeking a rezoning of the residential lot right now to a C2 commercial lot to future develop it to city needs and whatever the community can work with us.
Okay. Would like to start? Go ahead, Dave.
I'll start off by stating that I think a commercial component to this corner is appropriate primarily because of the nature of the fact that it's, a busier intersection, and we've traditionally tried to encourage commercial locations to the busier corridors and that type of thing. However, that being said, I think there are a lot of challenges with this particular corner that you've selected. Some of them have already been listed, but I will kind of rank them in terms of degrees of my concern. Number one, we really weren't provided with a lot to work with here in terms of the vision. So I understand kind of what you want to put on, but it feels to me like, number one, conceptually, there's too much being put on given the space. Secondly, I'm not a super big fan of offering a lot of concessions as it relates to buffers to commercial and separations between commercial and residential uses. And so we're already being asked, to have to give pretty much on all sides. I don't have a feel because we don't have anything to look at as to access to the site and where your patrons, will be able to access this. In addition, I think we've also, in the past, tried to encourage connectivity as well. So if a neighborhood commercial development is to go in, we ask, how do you envision the connectivity to that neighborhood? Is it accessed by sidewalks? Is it pedestrian friendly? Or are people going to be asked to cut through that residential neighborhood to access the site? And we really don't have any idea how that looks today. So, that's just kind of some of my initial concerns about it. So I'll go ahead and go back to the chairman.
I don't disagree. Again, there isn't much here to work from, and I'm not in general a huge fan of relaxing buffer zones with regards to residential. You've got the plots here, you've got two residential properties that are literally butting up against this development, and I think it would impede on their quiet enjoyment of their property. So I'm not seeing a significant, particularly with the type of commercial development that you're proposing here, that I'd be, at this point in time, in favor of transitioning this from what it is today. I know it's, might not look a lot like to someone else, but I don't see this commercial development for this particular lot.
I think the two commissioners have pretty much expressed my ideas, and concerns with buffers and the lack of any really great presentation of what's actually proposed. I would like to see more, and then maybe not as much put here, but something that, yes, it is going to be beneficial to the community, some type of business, but as what they presented now, there's not much to go on.
Again, I echo what the other commissioners say. I really don't have anything to work on. But a question I had for you, if you do not get the concessions that you're seeking, what will you do?
We are trying to work with the city, basically, to get whatever useful corner is going to be for the community as well. We're not specifically asking for certain, development. We are seeking at this time rezoning for future development. Whatever works for the community and fits the needs of it, we're willing to work. We don't have anything in solid, but we are coming up with plans. This is, as you mentioned, more of a non-formal meeting. So we are trying to work with the city to get something going on that corner. It's residential, but it's not, not being developed for residential at this time. So we're seeking to change it to commercial.
And even if you get the concessions that you're seeking or preliminarily seeking, it's still going to be tight there, I think, for that corner. And it butting up to a residential area like that, we need to know more and see more about really what that land is going to be used for and how it's going to be accessed.
We are working on the houses around that corner as well. So we're not just stopping there. That corner we're purchasing, hopefully we have a contract on, but we will plan on working on the other smaller house and one behind the lot. So eventually this would be something that we are working on. Hopefully in the near future that we can do that, but we are working on it.
And you're considering multi-story structures?
No.
No, just single story. Thank you.
I agree with the comments from the other members. I do see on your plan, it says a phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. I know those are just plans, but I see that the phase 1 is a proposed 1-story convenience store and an 8-pump gas station.
Yes, possible. That's
okay.
not, if it fits the plan, the size, well, if we can fit that in, that's possibility. It's one of the options. But right now, we're seeking a C commercial for general use.
We've been meeting, staff has been meeting with these gentlemen for a couple of months now, and just wanted to see what they, wanted a concept site plan, just to see what different uses would look like on that site based upon the dimensions of the property. As you can see, it doesn't lay out real well because of the lack of depth, east-west for that north stretch, and so that's what triggered kind of those buffer inquiries. The access points we had discussed at length as well, looking at potentially having a commercial access point up at Eastwood. It would not be connected to Eastwood, just so that, it removes the access point as far away from the signalized intersection as much as possible, and then pulling it in from the north. They indicated that they had spoken to IDOT and may be able to get a right-in, right-out on 120. That's a potential as well. So no roadway connectivity into the subdivision. We typically try to keep the residential traffic and the commercial traffic segregated as much as possible, but that was kind of the concept that we had talked about for the potential for this site.
Go ahead.
Is there anything in the comprehensive plan that specifically addresses this corner?
This corner still had it noted as residential. So the comp plan did not note it as a change of use. But for most people, we didn't really look at it real hard. This corner doesn't want to be single-family residential. I think everybody can probably agree to that. It wants to be something more than that. What that is, and to what level that's up to this board.
Thank you.
I just think, one thing to remind as you assemble this parcel, it's just an ask for, hey, we want to change this to C2, and see if the board will approve a change to C2. Well, C2 comes with a lot of things. So, there are some things in C2 that are permitted by right, and we're designating it as C2. We may never see you again until that development comes up. So it's hard to from what you're presenting as, a really broad 30,000 square foot, to say we're seeking C2 and not necessarily understand what you're seeking C2 for. So that's problematic for me, because again, we're trying to work in harmony with the corner. Obviously, as the commissioner and Mr. Ziegler just indicated, this probably will not be R1. There aren't going to be a lot of single-family homes around this corner. It will maybe be something else. But from a perspective of what is this going to be, I would need a significantly more information as to what you're trying to do here from a C2, and not just blanket C2 and then go for it.
Yes, I agree, and we're working on it. This is just a informal, hearing from both ends. But we are working on making sure that whatever plans come in, that makes sense to the city, makes sense to us as investors.
And as you say that this is not going to be a residential and it's not fit to be a residential, so then we need to find out what it be fit for, that we could work with the city and develop that for that reason. So if it's not going to be residential, obviously maybe it could be commercial. And if it's commercial, we wanted to see what the city needs and what's the community need to do with that property and utilize it.
It may not be residential. There could be someone who doesn't mind living on that corner. I'm just saying that a change to the commercial zoning comes with a lot of rights, and not knowing exactly what's happening with that is hard to stomach.
Yes, we agree. We are working on presenting more detailed drawings on the corner, and hopefully on the next hearing we'll have more papers. Right now we wanted to introduce ourselves and meet up with you, and hopefully we can work together.
I haven't weighed in at all yet. Just for background, I live in that general area, and sidewalk connectivity is very good between that particular location and the adjacent subdivisions. I completely agree with everything that's been said about being hesitant to relax the buffer zones. I will point out, however, though, historically, was low-key, but it did have a seasonal retail use in the past. Like a
Farm stand.
farm stand there, virtually, from April through October every year. Not a, low-key, not a big deal. I am intrigued about the idea of having a walkable place to, buy convenience store type items. I mean, the nearest thing that we have in that particular part of town is Fountain Square. And if we choose to stay within Gurnee, the nearest things are either East Grand or the Hunt Club complexes. I'm having a hard time visualizing putting all this stuff on one 1 plus acres. Does that acreage include the possibility of vacating the alleyways?
I don't believe so. I don't think it includes the Phase 3 lot, but it includes the Phase 1 and 2 lots,
Okay.
the one, just over 1 acre.
And I'm looking at plat, if you will. Is all of this that 1 acre, or is it?
Yes.
Okay, so it's that complete, like, panhandle thing?
It's like an L shape.
Okay, okay.
In a wrap-in.
With regard to zoning, if we were to do commercial, I think I'd be an advocate of a PUD type thing where we could carve out a specific list of uses so that would be very restrictive, so we don't end up with the entire baggage of C2.
Yes.
I think you're hearing we need some convincing. There's maybe a little bit light under the bushel there, but it's going to take some creativity to get there.
Okay. We're working with an architect, and we met with them today, and we hopefully have more plans on the next year.
More details.
Right. Thank you. Continue to think tank it. Think tank it? That didn't come out right. And see where it goes. But pay close attention to the buffer issues, the use, specific use issues. Try to get some feedback from the neighbors. That's all I can say. Thank you for your time.
We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Right, the next item on the agenda is a discussion item for proposed text amendment dealing with detached garages of 600 square feet or more.
Yep. So last year, May, the Gurnee Village Board executed a moratorium on residential garage structures larger than 600 square feet, based upon two garage structures that were built, that were overbuilt based upon what was permitted, and then were shrunk a little bit to come back into conformance. So the garage structures were regulated underneath our new zoning code that was adopted in 2015. Both of these structures pushed the envelope as far as what detached garage structures are, size and bulk are allowed. Both of them, in our minds, felt a little bit too big for majority of residential lots. So we put a moratorium on them before we had any more introduced into the community. So we are now working on crafting some language in the zoning code to hopefully bring them to a more comfortable level. So in your packet, there's several items that can be considered as far as ways of restricting the size and the bulk of them. So moratorium is intact until November of this year. We have a little bit of time, but we wanted your feedback early on to help draft those regulations. So this is a staff-initiated project, so feel free to let us have it.
Who'd like to start? Dave?
Well, I read through some of the notes, and obviously we're looking at an example, I believe, of one that we're talking about here that's literally as large as the house itself. So yeah, clearly we have to address this, but I think it really can be handled, it was also very valuable to have the examples of what some other communities are doing as well. So the recurring theme here was, related to bulk as it relates to the percentage of the rear yard that gets consumed by this. I think that should be a component. And I also am a favor of regulating height. I think what you do here is you really you pin them in a sense, to the point where they really can't practically build a structure that allows, the size of an apartment to be built above it, which is, I think, really where we're trying to go here, to regulate the mass the mass relative to the primary structure. So I'd like to see the floor area ratio managed, the percentage of the rear yard consumed managed, and the height managed, primarily.
Only comment I have to that is we pretty much did away with floor area ratio in the 2015 zoning code. So that one's, I would really rather not reintroduce it into the code for just, measuring against the garages. So if there are some other ways that we could do it other than the floor area ratio, I think our current is 50% of the rear yard would be allowed to be detached structure. Most of the other communities was 40%. So pulling that down, and then the height has been problematic, and I agree with that. We always measure to the midspan of the roof, and I think it makes, midspan of the house makes sense. Midspan of the detached accessory structures seems to make them a little bit too large. So I think if we do midspan versus peak roof on the accessory structures, I think that will automatically pull those down a little bit and make it a little more palatable.
Agreed.
Thank you.
What are your, I'm sorry. Go ahead. What are your thoughts on the impervious service area in terms of pulling that down as well in line with the other communities?
So we have impervious surface ratio.
We've got 40 to 60
Trying to remember here.
maximum.
It's somewhat dependent on the zoning classification. So it's 40% for an R1, which is the largest lot, and it goes up to 50% for our smallest lot. We typically don't run into the ISR ratio by the time you implement all of the setbacks. That one usually isn't one that we're bumping up against. It's more the setbacks and the building height are really the ones that we're bumping up against the most.
I was looking at the point of discussion of prohibiting permanent stairs and garages to attic area. Do we have to have an attic area? Can we prohibit that? So we're not, 10 years down the road and we're not paying attention and someone converts that garage to a livable area or something of that nature. So we can prohibit the ability to do that. That's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, so if you think about the construction of most garages, you have the rafters, have the cord at the bottom of the rafters. The next thing you know, put a sheet of plywood up there to kind of bridge those rafters, then you put a few more sheets of plywood, then you start putting your tubs and your boxes up there.
Yeah.
So it even though it's not built out as a attic area, it kind of moves to that just with some minor, throwing some sheets of plywood up there. So the removal of the permanent stairs, makes it a little less likely for it to turn into something as you indicated. And so that's kind of why it's a little hard to prohibit the attic, just because the rafters really lend themselves to doing some storage up there.
And is the permanent stairs also those pull-down stairs? Would you consider that the permanent stairs as well?
I would not consider those permanent stairs. I'm talking about a staircase going up to the attic.
So you're talking about a built-out staircase?
A built-out staircase, yes.
And that's currently permitted or not permitted?
It is allowed in one of the two garages that we pointed to. They did put in a permanent staircase in there, which is a bit of a red flag.
Is there any thought to, what's the maximum square footage that we can have? 65?
It depends on the lot size. So,
Could we do something that's irrespective of the lot size? Is that something that we can do?
yes, we could have a maximum square footage as well. But you can imagine, we don't have too many of them, but there are a handful of 2-acre, 3-acre lots in town, and a 800 square foot garage does not feel bulky on those. On a third of an acre lot or a quarter of an acre lot, a 600 square foot garage feels rather bulky on some of those.
So we could still do the percentage, but then say
We could
not
put
to
a-
exceed the maximum, maximum square footage of this.
Yes, we could, absolutely.
I kind of like that.
Yeah, because again, you could build a whole, obviously 2 acre lot, you can put 3 houses on it, right? I mean, and a garage could effectively be a small house, so I think you would have to marry that to minimize or to cap the number of square footage that we're trying to get into any single structure. And then I also saw that there are maximum allowable square footage for all accessory structures that can be placed on any single parcel as well. Is that something that we can consider?
It has to be less than the square footage of the house. So that's our maximum that we have right now. So one of the suggested edits would be make that not 100% of the square footage of the house, but make it 75% of the square footage of the house. So shrink that maximum footprint a little bit, just so that the accessory structure truly is accessory to the principal structure.
And is there a maximum number of accessory structures, not to exceed 2, not to exceed 3?
We have a limit of one garage, but we do not have a limit of accessory structures. So you could have a garden shed, plus a greenhouse, plus a dog run, plus a chicken coop. All of them together have to, we add up the square footage for all of those, but we do not have a maximum number of accessory structures other than garage, which is limited to 1.
Can we consider that or no?
Yep. Do you have a number in mind?
3?
Okay, thank you.
I think, I agree. I think we need to limit the number of structures that are on the property, because I'm just reading through what Vernon Hills has and some of the other locations, and they do limit swimming pools, shed, playhouses, all kinds of things, so that the property doesn't turn into just like a commercial property, almost. So I see that we need to limit the size, the scope, placement, and then what goes on in that garage. I'm a little concerned about too. Yeah.
That it's always a little bit harder to regulate what's behind closed doors.
Yes.
We can do it, from a distance by not allowing plumbing in there, which we don't allow, bathrooms or kitchens in garages. So we kind of do it to keep that away from being a habitable structure, but we do allow electric and gas in case somebody wants to use the garage.
You answered one of the questions I had about plumbing, so we can restrict the ability of not having plumbing. I'd like to see us tighten down the number of buildings, or outbuildings. Not very far from formal discussion, there's a property there that we have 6, okay? It's kind of unwieldy. But I like the discussion about height, keeping it 40 to 50%. Impervious surface. Question on square footage. If it's a 2-story house that's like 3,000 square feet, is all 3,000? It's just the
footprint.
The footprint, okay.
Structure.
Good, okay.
Say that again for me?
Like Dave made a comment that the accessory structure could be a certain percentage of square footage of the primary dwelling. And my question was, if it's a 2-story house that's 3,000 square feet, is it 3,000 or not? And he says it's the footprint, so it'd be restricted to probably 1,500.
The 1,500 square foot.
In my particular example.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
I think we got it.
Okay. So stay tuned, and we'll have more on this in probably the next 2-3 months.
Yes.
All right. Next item on the agenda, our next meeting is scheduled to be held on August 6th. We're going to have a meeting?
Shannon, I don't think we have anything, no public hearings scheduled for the 6th at this point.
Nothing on the 6th, on the 20th.
We will have something on the 20th, though, so may get the 6th off.
Stay
If
tuned.
there's any small things that pop up.
Stay
in
tuned,
between.
okay. And the final item on the agenda is the opportunity for public comment for things that were not on the agenda this evening. Does anybody care to make a comment? If not, I'll close the floor to the public. A motion to adjourn?
So move.
Me? I thought so. Motion by Mr. Norntop, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Campbell, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Stay cool, everyone.
You're lucky the meeting wasn't.